I got home from marching band rehearsal, our last one, and, I didn't want to change, so I put on some sunglasses to camp up the look, so now I'm a camp counselor. So today I'm talking about a straight romance book. Not something I would expect myself to do. Also, my room's in a different configuration. I'll make another video about that. Yeah, today we're talking about the book The Selection by Kiera Cass. The most natural thing to transition from not posting for almost a year now. If I were just sitting here today and someone recommended it to me, I probably wouldn't read it. It's a story about dystopian bachelor. Like a government-funded series of The Bachelor to pick the queen of your country. No, ma'am. The thought of women competing over a single guy that's dating all of them makes me repulsed. And not to mention, it's about a dystopian future, girl. It's a Hunger Games ripoff. These are all Hunger Games ripoffs. It's not as bad as another Hunger Games ripoff, but still a bad omen. And also the main character's name is America. That's so dumb. But let me get into all the reasons why I A, love this book, and B, think you should read this book.
M to the B, it's M to the B, it's M to the B, bang.
I have trouble reading. I didn't actually reread this book because I couldn't find a physical copy and I probably wouldn't have sat down to read it anyway. So I just put on an audiobook. This is not sponsored by Audible, surprisingly. But even though I was listening to someone reading it, it still gave me the freedom to picture whatever I wanted in my head. Sure, movies are easier, they give you everything on a base level, but books give you more freedom. Honestly, when you're reading a book, you can just pretend there was a different ending. As someone who doesn't really like men, gotta be honest, guys, I hate straight love stories. And I feel like every gay romance is a story of coming out of the closet, and I just want a sweet love story between two women. Is that too much to ask for, Netflix? And speaking of Netflix, I'm not super excited for the movie. I'm very nervous that it's gonna be bad. I mean, I'll get into this again later, but I didn't actually picture Maxon as a woman, because that's normally what I do when I'm reading a book about a straight couple these days. I just was able to picture him being like longer hair, more feminine, more of like a... Honestly, I'll be honest. Marley is described as having blonde hair, and I guess I missed that when I actually physically read the book. And so I pictured Marley as black for this whole time. Even though it wasn't actually put in the book, in my mind I was able to give it that freedom. So, loved that book medium. I think another reason why I could deal with Maxon being a guy is that he does have a temper, but America doesn't comply with it.
Yeah, treat her like a bitch. I fuck her in the ass and I fuck her in the tits.
She has a backbone. She stands up to Maxon. When they have arguments, they're A, started by both of them at different points in the story, and B, not anyone's fault. It's not always the girl's fault. Thank God. And this is the reason why why the whole Bachelor thing doesn't gross me out as much. The system is called out by America. She is like, this is gross and kind of uncomfortable and I wish we didn't have to do this. Great. Great. Amazing. She's just someone that this sounds very conceited, can picture myself as. And so it's really great to have a main character you can relate to. And I know I said her name is stupid, because it is, but I'm also glad it's not like... I'm glad that it's more of like a... America fought really hard in this universe, so they're like, It's really dumb, but I'm glad it's not patriotism. And while we're on the topic of the country, let's move on to the next segment. I'm on a roll with these transitions.
I said certified freak. 7 days a week. Wet ass P-word. Make that pull-out game.
So I'm gonna be the first one to say the world building doesn't make a lot of sense. In a caste system, I don't really see... I mean, I could do more research into actual caste systems that exist, but I don't see the point in currency. That might be because I don't see the point in currency at all than the rest of me government. But I love the position that America's put in. She disagrees with the caste systems and doesn't like them, but she still has to suck up to the king and has to ascend the ladder in order to be with the person she loves, which is, so good. It's wonderful storytelling. I also love the reality of the Gregory Ilya being a power-hungry jackass, and in schools they're still taught that he was a wonderful man who brought their country back from the brink. There's a lot of people in our history books like that. And the rebels, the fact that there's two groups of them, both of them with different goals in mind, to show the difference between a fascist organization and an anti-fascist organization. Beautiful. Some of the laws are kind of weird, though. I don't understand the fact that you legally aren't allowed to have sex before you get married. I also don't understand the legal curfew. That might just be authoritative government, or it could be a wartime thing, or it could be because of all the rebels. But it doesn't make sense to me. What I do like is the rules for the girls in the selection. It makes sense to me, and it makes way for beautiful storytelling. The B plot with Marley and Officer Woodwork was so amazing to me. They didn't care that they were eights. They just cared that they were together. And it's so wonderful. I love it. And while we're talking about beautiful love, transition, let's move on to the next segment.
This is weed, pot, cannabis, Mary Jane. Ain't nothing cool about what it can do to your brain.
Romance books cause me to spiral in my head because they remind me of how lonely I am and then are there to fill that loneliness. It's hard for me to get out of a romance novel phase when I'm in it. So I need to find something to read quick. I'm not much of a person for a love triangle. I'm more of a love to hate girl, or a hate to love girl, but it is just so well executed, and the love that America and Maxon share is great. It's wonderful. Me and my sister had a whole Twitter conversation just about scenes from the book, and the majority of the scenes were scenes between America and Maxon. In my point of view, the way that they love each other, wonderful. This might just be the fact that I'm a romantic, but the idea that there's one person out there who you would die for, you would do anything for. Everything in your life is irrelevant if that person is not happy. That's so beautiful to me. The scene where... Did I mention spoilers? If you're this far into the video, you should have figured it out. The scene where Maxon gets shot for America during the rebel attack and tells the guards to get her to safety before he can. Oh, it's wonderful. It's beautiful. It's wonderful. I can't stop saying the words wonderful and beautiful and talking about the story because it's wonderful and beautiful. I love the idea of love that will last forever. Speaking of love that will last forever, let's talk about the love that will last forever with this book. The first time I read this book was in middle school. I thought I was bi in middle school, So I was more open to reading hetero romance, and so that's how this book came into my clutches. I actually don't know who suggested this book to me. It was either my older sister or my mom. I mean, I read a lot of dystopian romance, which is weird that that's a genre. This was right up my alley. And for me, I like the fact that the romance is more there than the dystopian. I don't know. I'm a romantic. What can I say? Maybe I need to read more romance books, but I feel like they're just not complex enough for me. Like, sure, the overthrowing the government parts are great, but you've seen the impact that the love story had on me and my sister. And not to mention, middle school was kind of a dark time for me. 7th grade was weird, because that was the first time I, stopped talking to people who were toxic for me. And so during that rough time, this book was there to fill the void I had in my heart for love. Even though I just lost platonic love, but whatever. And even today, maybe a reason I came back to this book is the fact that I have reached out to people I've liked and been rejected multiple times. So if you're watching this and this happened to you, you aren't the first one. So thanks a lot. So this book is just here to fill that hole. So, is this book perfect? No, not at all. The beginning of the first book is really slow, I'll be honest. Like I said, the government doesn't make a ton of sense to me. And the third book is kind of a mess in the beginning and the end. But would I recommend reading this book? Yeah. It's a pretty good book. I love it. And I will always love it. It's a beautiful romance story. And it also is able to make a political statement. And I know this video is pretty short for a book review, but I don't have enough subscribers to make an hour-long video, so. Also, I don't read that often. I don't know how to make a book review. In all honesty, part of making this video is a hope that it will close this chapter in my life. That's a book joke. Whenever I get into weird phases of being obsessed with one thing, it's all I can think about, and I don't want that thing to be the selection. I love the book, but I'm gonna get sick of it. And I don't want to be sick of it yet. I'm listening to it for the second time. I finished listening to all 3 books in 2 days. Guys, I was in it for this video. I wrote a script, so that proves how much I love this book. But clearly, this is something to read if it sounds interesting to you, and even if it isn't, still give it a try. That's the moral of the story. That's another book joke. I hate this. Alright. Goodbye. Read the selection. Love from your favorite camp counselor.